So I've had the new Model 3 Performance for a little over a week now, and these are 10 new things that I really like about the car, and one thing at the end that I really dislike. Also, I am coming from a 22 Model 3 Performance, so Highland refresh stuff is new for me, but I assume most people aren't going from a base or long range Highland to a Performance Highland, so it should still be somewhat relevant to you. First up, and this one was really a double take for me, like I saw it, but it didn't register at first and it took me a second to notice the interior lighting. And no, I'm not referring to the colorful RGB ambient lighting, but the lights that light up the car, the overhead lights. I guess Tesla upgraded them because they're no longer physical buttons, they're like touch sensitive, which I mean is fine, but what I'm talking about is they are so much brighter now. And honestly, this is just another reason to get tint on this car, because if you do a lot of things at night, every time you open the door or just do anything that make these lights come on, it's like getting hit with a spotlight. And if you're getting in or out of your car in like a darker parking lot, it really does draw attention. Number 2, the new auto trunk. This actually came with the spring update, but it is only available for the S, X, and the new 3. It has something to do with the fact that these cars have ultra wideband support. It's essentially a way for you to open the trunk hands-free. With your phone on you, just walk up to the trunk, and as long as you have it enabled in the settings, the car will beep 3 times and then open. And it's very good with proximity. Like, you need to be directly behind the car. If you're just walking by, it'll beep once, maybe twice, but the second that you round the car and get away from the back end, it'll stop. It's not like other vehicle manufacturers that make you kick the bottom of the bumper or anything like that. And to be honest, I've been really loving this feature. Top end acceleration. Now, while I did say in my initial impressions that I was a little disappointed that we didn't get at least put on par with the long range S, I am very much enjoying the car still having some pep above 60 to 70 miles per hour. And no, it's not because I'm doing 60 to 130 pulls all the time. It just makes anything highway speed related so much easier. We all remember how it felt switching to an EV for the first time, that instant torque. Overtaking and passing was just so much easier. But now with some top end power, it takes that easy factor up to 11. Also, having more top end power for those higher speed maneuvers makes it feel even safer. And if you don't own an EV, what I just said probably didn't make sense, feel safer, but if you do, then you know what I'm talking about. Fourth, the looks. This is the best looking Tesla, hands down, for the front and rear end, side profile aside. I'm not the biggest fan of the normal Highland front end. It's honestly kind of just too flat. It looks very generic, but the performance adds curves, slits, and a lip. It looks very next-gen roadster. And I don't think I even need to explain the rear. Like, the Highland upgrade already made it the best looking rear with like the new taillights and badging, but now with the diffuser and the more angular spoiler, it just looks a whole lot more meaty and just, God, it looks so good. I absolutely love the look of this car, and I can't wait for them to bring some of these design cues to the S and X, because in my opinion, those cars are starting to look a little dated. Next up, the cameras. Yes, the Model 3 was the last Tesla to get hardware for, and apparently now Elon has already announced hardware 5 is coming at the end of next year. But nonetheless, the cameras look so much better. They're just clearer, less pixelated, and overall, I'm really enjoying the boost in quality over my old 3. Yeah, that's it. The camera quality just looks a lot better. Now, this next one is a little bonus, the accessories. All accessories that fit the normal Highland also fit the Performance. So there's already a ton available, as the Highland has been available for quite some time. So floor mats, organizers, screen protectors, and mud flaps are really like the essentials, or what I would recommend day one. I'll have all the accessories that I have and that I recommend linked below, and you can use code YouTube, all caps, to get 10% off at Test Stuff. Also, if you're military, a first responder, school teacher, etc., we now have an ID system set up that will actually get you an even bigger discount. Next up, the new blind spot indicators. At first, I thought these little red dots were kind of redundant because, well, you can turn on your turn signal and a camera pops up with your blind spot in it, and the window will glow red if someone's already there. But what I didn't realize is that these red dots act as actual blind spot indicators. And I guess because I've driven Tesla so long, that how actual blind spot indicators like work, I just wasn't used to, but your turn signal doesn't need to be on for these to work. Anytime that someone passes through your blind spot, they'll light up. I'm all for any improvements to situational awareness while driving. Number 7, or at least I think it's number 7. The new adaptive suspension. Not so much the sports setting, as that feels the same as my old Performance 3, but the new standard setting. In my opinion, even on 20-inch wheels, it's the most comfortable suspension on a Model 3 from the factory. I actually feel kind of bad for people that went for the long-range Highland for the less aggressive suspension, as even on 18s, the Performance's new adaptive suspension on standard feels better. Also, not to mention that it's come out now that the long range uses a different battery pack that actually charges slower than the Performance battery pack, and road tripping it is slower despite the 30-ish extra miles of range. It's not at air suspension level comfort, but it's like halfway there. The sound system is up next. Yes, it does sound better than my previous 3 and is only really beaten out by Cybertruck. It's not a crazy upgrade, but there is 100% more bass. It's just more thick in that lower end. And yeah, sound system sounds really good. Carbon fiber is finally in the interior for the Performance. If you've been a longtime viewer, then you know that I actually had a custom carbon fiber dash and trim in my previous Model 3. I never really understood why the Performance versions, otherwise known as the Plaids for the S and X, had carbon fiber trim on the interior, and why the 3 and Y didn't. It's not really that much more expensive, and it really brings the look together with the carbon fiber spoiler. So yeah, I'm really glad to see that they put carbon fiber on the interior for the Performance. I know some people don't like carbon fiber. I personally do, and I think that it adds to the Performance aesthetic. Plus, apparently the dash is super easy to take off. So if you don't like it, you could just swap it out. You know, something that I thought that I would never say that I'm saying, I love the glove box like so much, and I'm pretty sure that it didn't actually get bigger. It's just been redesigned. It's more of a shelf now, and the part that drops down is more of like a door, and the door is magnetized and super satisfying to shut. It's a lot easier on the glove box now with heavier things, because instead of it laying on the door itself that opens and closes, it lays on that shelf, and then the door just closes. Also, a little fun fact, I guess, the Sentry Mode / dash cam USB stick that comes with the car is now different. It's still like the same storage, it's still branded with Tesla, but it does look a little bit different. I hadn't seen anyone mention that, so I thought I'd mention it. And finally, the new seats. In terms of the sports seats, the more aggressive and sporty looking design, yeah, I think they really nailed it, and it looks super good. The functionality of these sports seats is also pretty great. The bolstering keeps you in place while not being overly aggressive or uncomfortable. Like, these seats are just as comfortable as my previous 3. Plus, the Highland refresh brought perforation, which gives a nice contrast to the seats, in my opinion. Like, I think these seats actually look better than the old 3 and Y seats, and it's also functional as they added ventilation while still retaining the heating aspect. I really do think that these are the nicest sports seats while also being functional that I've ever been in. And it's even crazier to think that Tesla makes all of their seats in-house, so it's not like that you can get these seats anywhere else. No, like Tesla makes them themselves. Now, of course, there are more things I like about the car, but these were like the things that really jumped out at me during the first week of ownership. Now, for the one thing, and actually now thinking about, there's really 2 things that I really don't like. Number 1, and this may be kind of surprising, but it's the reason that it wasn't on the I like it list, the RGB ambient lighting. And it's not that I don't like it, right? I think the design and implementation is super subtle and really nice. It just doesn't get bright enough. And I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled because of the RGB dash light strip that I had in my previous Model 3, and I'll have that link down below. You just can't really see it during the day unless, you know, you have like super heavy tint. And even at night, it's still not really bright enough. You are able to somewhat override this by bringing up the color wheel, but the second you shut it down or do something else, it just dims right back down. I feel like that this is a really easy fix via an OTA update, as they could just add a brightness slider or do like what the screen does and have like an auto one. So like during the day, it'll get brighter. At night, it'll not be as bright because you don't need it to be as bright at night. But yeah, it's just not bright enough right now. I also saw that someone mentioned how cool it would be if Tesla enabled some like sort of blind spot feature where if a car is in your blind spot and your turn signal is on, the side of the car's lights would flash. I definitely think that while that would be kind of redundant, it would still be super cool. And secondly, which I already mentioned in my previous video, but I mean, it's still happening, the turn signal button's not working. It's been happening so much to me that I am going to have Tesla look at it during my next appointment. But from what I've heard, it's pretty common and it's just a downside of using like touch sensitive or capacitive buttons instead of physical buttons. I don't know if this can be fixed via an over-the-air update, but if so, Tesla, please fix this, because trying to merge and not being able to use my signal and the car thinking that I'm drifting and pulling me back and me having to like override that, it's really annoying. I know a lot of people are finally taking delivery of their new performances, so if you are, let me know your favorite thing about it down in the comment section. If you are new around here and you do want to see more Tesla related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.